Welcome to the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright, an exciting thrill ride through the wonderful world of HBCU athletics. Before our trip begins, let's set a few ground rules. First, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, hit the like button. Third, please be sure to tell someone else about this show. Now that we've got these things out of the way, it's time for our journey to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another spectacular Wednesday night edition of The Ride with your boy, Wild Wayne Cartwright. Hey, you saw in the opening credits, you make sure that you hit the like button. You make sure you subscribe, do all that good stuff, man. You guys, I love everybody because this is just a great time to just preview everything in week 11. Man, if you can believe it, we're already on week 11. So we got all these good things tonight. And also I've got updated scenarios that I'm going to show you again. I showed some of it on Sunday night, but I also have a little bit of an amendment to it. And I also am going to make a correction to something that I said on Sunday night as well, coming up later on in this show. So you guys know what I do. You know how I do. We get it all started right now. All right. And I love this, man. Said good evening to you, Emmett. And he said, Wayne, please let them know we're not losing anymore. All right. Well, let's get right to it, guys and ladies and gentlemen. All right. We're gonna start things as I always do right here. He said, Wayne got the after hours chill music going on in the background. Hey, you know, man, we gotta mix it up. We gotta mix it up a little bit. All right, so we're gonna get started here with Big South OVC, Tennessee State. Their game this week. They take their talents up the road to Martin, Tennessee. They take on the UT Martin Skyhawks. All right, Tennessee State, tough year, obviously. You guys know that they earned a share of the Big South OVC title last year, and this year it's been nothing like that. Obviously, with the new coaching staff, with Reggie Barlow, they've had a lot of struggles throughout the season. So they come in 0-5 in Big South OVC play. They've kind of struggled really just to get any kind of continuity going on offense, and also defensively has been a bit of a struggle for them as well. They've been playing a little bit better as of late. Defensively, but it's just the fact that they don't have a whole lot of offense going with Byron McNair at quarterback, who's really just kind of a placeholder at this point. I think that possibly next year, either if you're going to stick with McNair, you're going to need to get them some more weapons. They've been lacking in the running game. They've been lacking also just offensively on the offensive line. So this is a game that they're going to try to get their first win in Big South OVC play. UT Martin, on the other hand, they come in 4-1. They're in the thick of the race there. They still get to play Tennessee Tech, who is the best team in that league. And actually, Tennessee Tech is a top 10 team in the FCS. So UT Martin, even though they have a very faint chance of trying to win the Big South OVC, they have a chance nevertheless. Their only loss in league play was to Lindenwood. So they come in at 4-1 in league play. And they're at home. You see that this is going to be on ESPN Plus, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. in the Central. Tennessee Martin actually won this matchup last year when it was in Nashville. And that was a surprise at that point that they won this game. But in the end, I think it's just too much UT Martin. I think Tennessee State's going to play a little bit better. They're going to try to press it a little bit, but I've got Tennessee Martin winning this thing 27-10. Shout out to Reggie Barlow. I know that he's going to get these guys. He's going to get them to become winners, and it'll be sooner rather than later. Just this year, he came into the job late, and he tried to build his staff, and he tried to get that portal. But yeah, but shout out to him anyway. All right, now we go to the CAA. We've got North Carolina A&T. They had a week to forget last week. Giving up 62 points at home to Towson in a 62-9 loss. And they come in at 2-7, and they're 2-3 in CAA play, and they hit the road this week, and they go to play the Stony Brook Seawolves. And this is the first time that they're playing Stony Brook. Stony Brook also is 2-3 in CAA play. So this is at Laval Stadium there in Stony Brook, New York. High noon for this kickoff. First ever meeting on Flow College Sports. Now, at this point, one could say that North Carolina A&T, they've really overachieved for the season. Because for the most part, people believe that they were no more than a one-win team because they won one game each of the last 2 years, but they've actually won 2 games this year. And it doesn't matter how the fashion that they've won these games, where the first one was when Hampton had their meltdown in the fourth quarter. And then also Elijah Kennedy saved their hides a couple weeks ago by returning a punt and a kick return for a touchdown in the fourth quarter to defeat Campbell. Nevertheless, Sean Gibbs has had those guys competing. Last week was a big outlier because Towson scored every which way but loose on these guys. And so this is a week for Sean Gibbs to really needs to, get these guys to get refocused, because at this point, it's about what can you do to finish the season on a higher note. Their schedule moving ahead past this game is really, really difficult. There really aren't any winnable games beyond this game in itself, and even in this one is a stretch. Stony Brook, on the other hand, they're having a little bit of a down year. They were expected to finish a little bit higher in the CAA race, and they've been having some struggles. So they're 4-5, but they are playing at home, and they are the better team with their better personnel. I expect North Carolina A&T to play much, much better than they did last week. I mean, Lord knows they can play. Anything is better than 62-9. But in the end, give me the Seawolves. I'm going 35-17 in this one. All right. Now we stay with the CAA. We hit the second game in the CAA on the schedule, and this is Hampton coming off of a bye week, and they host the Maine Black Bears. This game's at Armstrong Stadium there in Hampton, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon in the Central. This will be on Flow College Sports. They played 2 years ago. Hampton won this game 42-35 up there in Orono, Maine. Okay. Now, Maine, they have been playing their best football. They have won 5 games in a row. They got off to an 0-4 start, and they've won 5 straight. Now, Maine, they're not going to wow you by any stretch of the imagination. They get by with team defense, and they just do just enough on offense to get by. But 4-1 in CAA play is still no slouch. All right. And Hampton, they've had their struggles. Obviously, the record shows that. They're 0-5 in CAA play, and they've had some really, really big struggles throughout a lot of this CAA slate. They did have a bye week last week, and last time they played Monmouth, where Monmouth didn't have their starting quarterback, and they fell 28-10 on their homecoming. Now, for Trenton Boykin, he's had a whole lot of criticism in his first full season. They played musical chairs at quarterback, whether it's been Brendan Davis, who's more of the passer, or if it's been Isaiah Freeman, who was the runner. They had Isaiah Freeman play most of the first half of the season, but since then, the last 3 games, they've gone exclusively to Brendan Davis throwing the ball. It has not equated to any victories. And with the schedule that they have remaining, one could possibly think that Hampton could be headed to a 2-10 slate. And that is definitely a disappointment, because Hampton came into the year last year being 5-7 and competed in several of those games where that record could have been better. Maine right now, they're playing their best football. Like I said, 5 straight wins. Even with Hampton coming off of a bye week, I don't think that they're going to be able to get this one at home, because I think Maine is going to find just enough to do it in a 4-quarter game. Closer, 28-17, Maine Black Bears get the Pirates this week. All right. Now, everybody who's just joining, make sure you hit the like button as we now get into the MEAC. And we are now into the final 3 weeks of the MEAC. Obviously, when you're playing a 5-week schedule, we just got this thing started. And now we have the 3-week sprint to the finish. So we've got Howard hitting the road this week, going to take on South Carolina State. Howard last week, they fell at home to North Carolina Central 35-14 in a game that they were greatly dominated in. They were only able to rush for 25 yards in the effort. And also, they were done in by Chauncey Spikes of North Carolina Central, having 9 receptions for 208 yards and 3 touchdowns. Arthur Rogers ran for 100 yards. And, Walker Harris threw for 321 yards. So it was a pretty dominating performance that Coach Larry Scott definitely wanted to flush. South Carolina State, on the other hand, they're 2-0, and they're sitting here in a prime position to try to make a run to defend their MEAC title from last year. All right, so this game, this is 1:30 Eastern. They played last year in D.C., and South Carolina State won 38-14. It'll be on ESPN+. So here are some of the notes for this game here. Howard has struggled on offense pretty much from the get-go, okay? With the exception of their win over Morehouse and also with the game that they won against Hampton. Those were the 2 games that they scored over 30 points. The rest of the season, it's been right about where that average is, 18 points per game. Now, when they've been able to win and play better, they've been able to run the ball. As I said last week, it was 25 yards on 32 attempts. I don't care who you are. You're not going to be able to win a whole lot of games when you're only rushing for 25 yards, okay? They averaged 135, so you saw they were held more than 100 yards beneath their average. Also, they don't really wow you in the passing game. Tariq Starks is not really a passing guy. He throws, for about what they said there, 162 yards per game is what they average. They actually throw, averaging offensively, they actually throw for about 140 yards per game. So defensively, they're a little bit stingier in the way that they play defense. They're still 26th in the nation in total defense, allowing just 326 yards per game. But the problem is that their offense is not able to supplement when their defense is having an off day like they were last week. And also, a lot of things that go wrong for Howard as well is they have a lot of drives where, they go 3 and out, and then their defense is on the field for most of the game. This week, against this South Carolina State offense led by Billy Atkins, who threw for 363 last week. The previous week, he threw for 428. They're averaging 289 yards passing a game. They throw it to multiple receivers, and, they run out of multiple sets and just different ways to find ways to get guys open, okay? What's also an issue for Howard in this game is South Carolina State only allows 122 yards rushing per game. They're very stingy on defense, allowing just that little on rushing. And also, you look at their national numbers with 7th in passing offense, 22nd in rush defense, and they're 21st in total defense. So all of these things equates to a possible situation for Howard where they're going to really need an out-of-body experience to win this game offensively. They're going to have to find a way to be a lot better rushing that ball. But against a team that's stingy running the ball, I don't really see it. I think defensively, Howard is going to find a way to stay in this game for a while. But ultimately, I think it's just too much South Carolina State with their multiplicity on offense. And they're starting to get their run game going with KZ Henry, too. So let's just see how things turn out. But I've got the South Carolina State Bulldogs winning this one 31-17. And that will allow them to get to 3-0, and that'll set up a really big game that they'll have next week that we'll love to talk about when they go to Durham to take on North Carolina Central. Speaking of North Carolina Central, they return back home to the friendly confines of O'Kelly Riddick Stadium. They're in Durham, North Carolina. They welcome in Michael Vick's Norfolk State Spartans. They check in this week with a 1-8 record, and they're 0-2 in MEAC play. Central, they had that victory last week, as I just said, over Howard, and they fell in their opener against Delaware State. 2 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Plus was where you can see this game. Last year, they played in the Circle City Classic in Indianapolis, and Central won 37-10. Now, a lot of things about this game in contrast. This is something that you have to really, really just pay attention to, even beyond some of the figures that I'm going to show you right here. Now, Otto Coons, and forgive me, Otto, I forgot your H in your last name, but Otto Coons last week versus Delaware State, he threw for 311 pass yards. And honestly, Otto Coons has really been pretty good for them at quarterback. He's been able to throw it. He's got J.J. Evans, Drayshawn Kendricks. He's got guys to throw the ball to. Their problem is they've struggled to run the ball, and they've struggled turning the ball over. You guys have heard me say it many, many times. So last week going into the game against Delaware State, they were tied for 106th. Well, this week now they're tied for 110th as they had another turnover last week. So now they're a -6 on the season in turnover differential. They've only taken it away 8 times and given it away 14 times. And that's pretty much been the theme and been the story about, hey, once they get their offense rolling, it's also a matter of time before they commit a key and crucial turnover, okay? Now, you also look, they're T107 in the FCS in scoring defense. That's another thing that's been a problem for them, giving up 35 points per game, okay? And then also, one thing that's helped them, though, they are 48th in passing offense. That's better than just middle of the road, okay? So that's basically above average for their passing attack. Now, Walker Harris, he loves to see that T107 in scoring defense because last week he threw for 321. He's had 5 300-plus yard passing games this season, okay? They're 10th overall in the FCS in passing offense and 278 per game average. And also, they've been not so shabby on their defensive output. T31 in the nation in total defense. And also, they take the ball away. They have interceptions with 9 on the season. And if you're Norfolk State, that's something you definitely don't want to play into. This is a sneaky game because Norfolk State, they've got nothing to lose at this point. You know, their season is pretty much a wash now. At 1-8, they're 0-2. They're pretty much playing out the string. And at this point in the game, they're trying to be a spoiler. And they definitely have the pieces enough to be a spoiler. Offensively, that is. If they can take care of the ball and not give North Carolina Central extra possessions, they can give them some additional things to think about. North Carolina Central right now, they're in a key position because they cannot afford another loss. They need to win this game with South Carolina State coming to their house next Friday. They still have an outside chance to win the MEAC in a tiebreaker scenario. But to do that, you need to play a full game and you need to get it done at home. I think that Norfolk State is going to be very game in this one. I think they're going to find a way to compete and stretch this thing out and give North Carolina Central some different looks and try some different things. But in the end, the home team shall prevail. To me, I've got the North Carolina Central Eagles winning this game 38-24 and marching on and getting themselves in position next week for that big game against South Carolina State. Everybody make sure you hit the like button as I head to the final game on our MEAC slate. And this is a big game that takes place on Friday night. They moved this one up, so this is Friday night on ESPNU. So you're going to have Tiffany Green and Jay Walker. They're going to be calling this game there at Hughes Stadium in Baltimore, where Delaware State take their talents on the road, which is their final road game of the season, to take on Morgan State. All right. So Morgan State, they come in 0-2 in, MEAC play. And, they had the overtime loss in the opener at Howard, a game that they should have won. And then they had a game last week where they had a big fourth quarter comeback and they fell just short at South Carolina State. Delaware State, they're flying pretty high right now after winning that game last week in Philadelphia over Norfolk State and getting that big win in the MEAC opener at North Carolina Central. This is a game that they really, really, really cannot afford to lose focus, because I was talking to Deshaun Jackson this week, and I asked him so much about, what is it going to take for you guys to continue to keep your focus because you guys have gone from being the hunters to now being the hunted. And the thing that he's, eloquently said was, hey, look, we know what we need to do. We know who we are. We know what our mission is. He said, we take things one game at a time anyway. And so with our mentality of taking it one game at a time anyway, that's what we believe is going to, help us to reach our goal. And so you look at this thing heading on this road. You're playing a team that's been struggling and, all that different stuff, right? But here, let's talk a little bit about the history of this series, okay? Morgan State leads this series 41-27. They've played a lot over the years, right? Recent dominance, Morgan State has won 14 of the last 16, including a 6-game winning streak in the series, okay? Now, obviously, we know that Delaware State hasn't been very good, obviously, since, really for the last decade, obviously. So that's definitely something that Morgan State wants to continue and Delaware State wants to snap. So now we get into a little bit of the side-by-sides, right? Okay, so you look at the average offense. Now, Delaware State, everyone knows by now, unless you've been under a rock, these guys love to run the ball. Their rushing average has kind of dipped a little bit. Last week, they were held to 201 yards rushing, okay? Now, their average is 302 yards rushing a game, okay? And then you see passing offense, they had to actually rely upon some passing last week because Norfolk State did a pretty good job by putting extra guys in the box and forcing them to pass, right? So they only average 166 yards passing. Neither team really will wow you in the air, okay? Now you look at total defense, and this is probably an area that Morgan State definitely wants to try to exploit because of total defense being at 413 yards per game allowed for Delaware State. Rush defense, this is where it's at in this game. Morgan State only allows 127 yards rushing. And I will honestly say, regardless of how or whatever anybody thinks about the way Morgan State is and things like that, these guys can play defense, right? They can play some defense, and they've got some pieces on defense, led by Eric Hunter, their stud All-American linebacker, right? Now, if they're going to have any chance, speaking about Morgan State, they're going to have to be able to stop the run first. They're going to have to make Delaware State be a one-dimensional team having to rely on the pass, right? And also, you look at the turnover differential. Delaware State, they thrive on turnover differential. They're a +5. They've only turned the ball over 7 times, and they've taken it away 12. And you look at Morgan State. I already told you about how Norfolk State was about getting in their own way. They've turned the ball over 17 times and have only taken it away 13, so they're a -4. Delaware State is really, really good. You don't need to give them extra possessions. So if you're Morgan State, you're in the same position as I said for Norfolk. You have absolutely nothing to lose. Listen, no one in the country believes that you have a chance to win this game except you guys in your building. And on national TV, you have a chance to put away a lot of disappointment by putting a very, very big damper and a wrench in the Celebration Bowl plans of Delaware State. But I believe that as hotly contested as this game will be, I believe that Deshaun Jackson and crew will find a way to get out of Baltimore with another one, 33-28. And that's where I go on that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the MEAC part of the slate. Everybody that's with me, make sure you hit the like button. And now we go to the SWAC. And we start in the SWAC with Florida A&M going on the road to play Pine Bluff. And with everything that's gone on with this season, you talk about 2 teams that are going in much different directions and 2 teams that are going in directions that have different expectations. Okay. I know everybody that's watching this here in the comments, I know that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. about the directions that these teams have been traveling. All right. So this will be in Pine Bluff, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. This will be on SWAC TV. They played 3 years ago, and FAMU won there in Pine Bluff 27-6. Now, Pine Bluff, they're 4-5, but some would say that they really hadn't beaten really anybody that you can really say can really write home about. Now, there are 4 wins. We know about the Westgate Christian and Lincoln. You throw those 2 out. They also beat Alcorn, and last week they really put a whooping on Southern. Now, Florida A&M, on the other hand, you look at who they beaten. They beaten Albany State, which they needed all 4 quarters to do. They also beat Alcorn at home, and they likewise beat Southern. So for this game, this is a battle of teams that are really, for the most parts, you could probably say 2 coaches that are basically trying to save their jobs. Now, do I believe that either coach is on the hot seat? Personally, to me, I think that's very subjective. I think that Hampton for UAPB, I think he's done a pretty admirable job this year, and also just the way that he's been able to get these guys to fight. The games, some of the games that they have lost, they've had opportunities in. Florida A&M, they've either been pretty good or pretty decent, or they've been pretty bad. They've had a lot of struggles on defense, and they've had certain struggles on offense. So this game right here, this is going to be a very, very strong toss-up. It's funny, she says, Ms. Mack says, U-Haul will be sponsoring this game. And he says, I got the nasty boys for the win. And said, the Snakes rebound. They have to beat someone on the road. They have no more home games. You're right. You're right. So really, to me, this is a matter of which Christian Peters will you get at quarterback for UAPB? Will you get good Christian Peters, who's been pretty solid in the games that they've won? Or are you going to get the inconsistent Christian Peters that throws incompletions left and right and throws interceptions, right? In the end, I got to go with somebody in this game, and I decided to go with Florida A&M to get on the road and win a close one, 31-27. Okay? So we move forward. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we go to the Fred McNair Classic. We have Southern checking in at a very surprising 1-8, 0-5 in SWAC play, hitting the road to take on the Alcorn State Braves, who were riding high last week after getting a very surprising victory at Texas Southern. They played a really, really good game last week, holding Texas Southern to 42 yards rushing. And also Jalen Tolbert, he threw 20 for 24 for 222 yards. Reggie Davis had 3 touchdowns rushing. It was a really, really good game for those Alcorn State Braves, and they get to return back home to the reservation where they will be kicking this thing off at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central on ESPN+. And they played last year. This was homecoming last year in Southern, and Southern rushed for 295 yards to win 24-14. So I said as before, this is the return match for interim coach Fred McNair. This is his return to Lorman. The legend has come back home. As you can see, he's the interim coach wearing the blue of Southern. And you saw how he looked there, very, very calm and very cool as he was the coach of Alcorn. And you see in his return, he was the head coach from 2016 to 2023. 48 wins, 33 losses, 5 SWAC East titles, 4 straight, and then also won one in 2023. And then you look also the SWAC titles, they won those back-to-backs and also went to the Celebration Bowl. So you look at everything that he accomplished when he was there in Lorman. Did a really, really wonderful job, and then you know how the tenure ended. The tenure did not end the way that anyone really expected, right? You saw there were reports that he was headed to Texas Southern, and that didn't come to fruition, and they just ended and parting ways. And when, he was asked this week on the coach's call, how does he feel about returning back there and things of that nature. He had a really, really good things to say. He talked about how, hey, he's from there. Basically, he's a son of the place, right? He was recruited there, coached there. He's done everything except roam the opposing sideline. So the emotions will definitely be flowing. And somebody asked me, they said, well, what do you think, Wild Wayne? Do you think he's going to get booed? No, they're not going to boo this man in his return. So, hey, I still got Alcorn winning this game 35-21, man. Bottom line, listen, Southern, they're struggling, man. And I think they're headed to 1-11. Really, I think that Southern's going to fight. They're going to play really good and really inspired to try to get a win for their interim man. But nah, I think Ced Thomas on the other sideline, I think he knows, like, look, man, I got a win last week. I need to keep the mojo rolling for me. For me. But yeah, a lot of emotions are going to be flowing. And this is a game that really nobody would really care too much about. But this game got a whole lot of intrigue because of Fred McNair's return. So, hey, 35-21, man. Alcorn, that's where I'm going. All right, now we go to Grambling. Now, I almost said something else, but I'm not going to say it because we know what Bethune-Cookman had done with their social media team. We know how that was. Everybody saw. So, this is a family show. We're going to leave it alone. Okay. So listen, before I get in here, and yes, I appreciate that. I realized that what I had there. So yes, thank you. Yes, I got that one. Appreciate that. All right. So let me say this here. Before I get into this game, I want to correct something that I said last week on Sunday night. I talked about this play right here.
Field goal at very best. Oh, and the ball is on the ground, still on the ground, and it looks like Alabama A&M has recovered a flag on the play. And just after you get two big special teams plays, Grambling makes a special teams miscue, and Alabama A&M, what did he say? Special teams
must be special, and you couldn't ask for a better play to happen right here.
Okay.
Not sure.
So I'm going to remove that. And now what I want to do, I want to correct something that I said. Okay. I cited a rule and I didn't cite the complete rule because of this, what I'm getting ready to show you right here.
Our first play this week, the offense punts and the receiver moves to get into position to make the catch, and he calls for a fair catch. Now, the receiver muffs the ball, and kicking team player number 80, he's going to grab the kick and start back toward the end zone. But we know the kickers cannot advance a kick, and so the ball is declared dead when number 80 gains possession. Now, we see the officials come together to discuss the play, and we're going to get a late flag for kick-catch interference. By rule, there's a big difference on this play if the receiver gives a valid fair catch signal, as he did here, or not. So if the receiver does give a signal, then he gets an unimpeded opportunity to catch the kick even after he muffs it. And we see here number 80 took the ball when the receiver still had an opportunity to make the catch. So this is a correct call for kick-catch interference, and the penalty is enforced 15 yards from the spot of the foul, and the receivers keep the ball 1st and 10. If there would have been no valid fair catch signal here, then the kick-catch interference protection ends for the receiver when the kick hits the ground or the receiver's touch or muff the kick. So without a signal here, it would have been legal for number 80 to possess this ball.
Okay, so with all that said, what I wanted to just say there is that this was the correct call that was made by the officials on Saturday. Okay, I wanted to come back and just correct that because the rule that I cited, it is a proper rule, but the part that I was not aware of in the rule, there's an additional cite to it, is that if you call for a fair catch, as they said in the video there, the ball carrier still has the protection to be able to still make a clean recovery, even if they muff it, as long as it doesn't hit the ground. The ball did not hit the ground. It actually went behind them and went and hit Alabama A&M defender. And therefore the correct call of kick catch interference was put on there. So yeah, just wanted to come back and just correct that and say, yeah, I learned an additional element right there. So bottom line, as we move forward now, we go to this game. All right. So this is a big game for both teams, actually. All right. Bethune-Cookman, they come into this one 4-1 in SWAC play, and Grambling is 3-2. Right. So you see this game will be on SWAC TV. They played 2 years ago in Grambling. Grambling won 28-14. Okay. And I see people talk about that rule. Yeah. So I don't like the rule, but hey, it is what it is. Okay. Bethune-Cookman, they've defeated Grambling 2 of 3 times as SWAC foes. Okay. Both times they were in Daytona. Okay. And they've beaten them 5 of 6 overall. Okay. Now for Bethune-Cookman, here's where we're at now. We spent a lot of the first half of the season talking about how explosive their offense was. Okay. We spent a lot of time talking about explosive, but over the last 2 games against UAPB and Valley, they've averaged just 155 pass yards. Okay. They've done it by running. They had 241 and they had 241 against Valley, and they had even 200 against UAPB. Okay. So they averaged 425 yards of offense per game. Even with all of that, they're still averaging 425 yards of offense, but they allow 432 still. Okay. Now, you know the situation that Grambling has. Zay T-Set, he's out. Ashton Fry, the backup, he's out. And Darrensburg, he got hurt. He's the 3rd stringer. He got hurt early in the game last week. He's out. So 4th-string true freshman Hayden Benoit, who played the majority of the game last week, he's going to start. Okay. Now, you look at where Grambling is. They're tied for 9th in the FCS in turnovers forced with 16. That was something that helped them last year, and it's something that they're leaning on now. They're forcing a lot of turnovers. But also something that they leaned on last week was they sacked A&M's quarterback, J.D. Davis, 8 times. Okay. Last week against A&M, though, with the difference of the quarterbacks, they had just 145 yards of total offense, and they leaned on Franklin having that punt return for a touchdown to be the difference. Now, this game right here, with a 4th-string quarterback starting, you're really going to have to try to find a way to throw the ball however you can. Mickey Joseph said on the conference call this week, he said that Benoit only knew 40% of the playbook. And he said that they're trying to get him at least up to 60% of the playbook by Saturday. But with only knowing 40% of the playbook, you're kind of limited in your play calling. So that's why you saw a lot of Byron Eaton running Wildcat quarterback last week. Now, for Bethune-Cookman, you know, their style here, for them, they don't really care about what they need to do to win. All they know is they just need to get a victory. Listen, it really isn't going to matter if they throw the ball up and down the field. Doesn't matter if they try to run with their run game with Ali Scott and Kamari Robinson. Doesn't matter for them. The bottom line for them is they need to take advantage of the fact that they got a 4th-string quarterback that's limited in the passing game. And if you can have him limited in the passing game and make them very one-dimensional and force them to run, this is going to serve you well. I think Grambling's defense is going to be good enough to make this game a lot closer and a lot longer. But I think Bethune-Cookman is going to find a way to take advantage of all of those factors and get out of there with a 24-14 win. It's going to be lower scoring to me, but I think that Bethune-Cookman has enough juice to be able to outlast the way Grambling's been playing defense. Get some extra possessions, just take care of the football, Wildcats, and you can get out of there with a victory. All right, we move to Montgomery. Now, I just talked about backup quarterbacks. I take a backup quarterback in that game, and I take you to another backup quarterback in this game. All right. This is the first time that Alabama State has been at home since October the 4th. All right. They've been on the road. They played neutral site game. They've had all that stuff going on. Last week, both teams, they had a wave of emotions. Texas Southern picked a really bad time to get a loss against Alcorn. Okay. Especially with Alabama State defeating Prairie View. Okay. So Alabama State, they come into this thing 4-1, and they're still in position. They still need a Jackson State defeat, but they're in position. Nevertheless, they're in the SWAC East. Okay, this will be 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. It'll be on SWAC TV. Last time they played was a little while ago, 3 years ago, in Houston, and Alabama State won 16-13. Now, Texas Southern last week, they only were able to muster 42 yards of rushing. That is not going to work in this game this week. It ain't happening. If you rush for 42 yards this week, this game will get ugly early, okay? They only allow 166 yards rushing per game. That's a positive. And the reason why I say that is because you've got starting quarterback Andrew Body. He's out with a shoulder injury. So Tashawn Smoot is going to make his first collegiate start at quarterback. Now, if you guys might have remembered at SWAC Media Day, or maybe saw my video, I interviewed Coach Eddie Robinson. I asked him about Tashawn Smoot at SWAC Media Day, and he said, shh. He said, how do you know about Tashawn Smoot? Tashawn Smoot is from right here in this area here in Ohio, where I live. He went to Springfield High School. He led them to the state championship game. He's a very proven passer. He went to Jacksonville State. Things didn't work out. He transferred, and so now he's in a position to be the starter in this game. Last week when he came in, they didn't ask him to do a whole lot. It was a little bit of a conservative game plan, right? But you still have your pieces with Jamari Holtzclaw and Ligon, and you also got your receivers on the outside. I believe that with that 233 per yard per game rush offense, it's going to be something that's going to serve these guys very, very well. Also, the emotions of being able to get back home and playing in friendly territory, that's going to help them too. I think this game will be something that that Alabama State Hornet fans will smile upon. It's not going I don't think it's going to be 100% pretty here, but I do believe that they get to win 28-19. This has a lot to do with, I think, just the emotions of the game with him being a first-time starter, and also combined with Texas Southern being being pissed off for laying an egg last week. I think they're going to come with a little bit of a better effort here. But ultimately, this is still the Hornets getting this thing and staying right in position. All right, so that's where we go. Hey, everybody, make sure you hit the like button. Like the stream, everybody, as we continue through. And now we get to Jackson State's game. And they hit the road, and they hit it to Itabena to go to the Delta at Rice-Totten Stadium, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. SWAC TV is where you'll be able to find this. They played last year in the Vet, and Jackson State ran it up big on them on the way to a SWAC championship. So you see that Jackson State, they sit at 6-2, 4-1, controlling their own destiny in the East Division. And they're playing Valley, who's still waiting to get on the board in SWAC play. All right. Now, a little bit on this game. This is the 63rd all-time meeting. They played back in 1953 to get things started. Jackson State leads this series by a lot. A lot. The last time that Valley won was 2014, and that was vacated. And also something else that I looked up and I could not confirm, but if anybody in the chat, if you can confirm this, I don't think that Jackson State has ever lost in Itabena. I could not find anywhere in the records that said that Jackson State has ever lost on the road there in Itabena. All 5 of those defeats, well, actually 6 if you count the vacated game, all 6 of those losses were in Jackson. So I don't believe so. But anyhow, let's just talk about this game in its sense here, guys. All right, Jackson State. Listen, last week that running game was in effect, full effect. Okay, 392 yards rushing. We know Jackson State. This is about you guys continuing to roll and just doing what you need to do to get another win, because next week you get Bethune-Cookman coming to your house. This is the last road game of the season on the schedule. Your last two are at home. You got Bethune-Cookman, then you got Alcorn. That's what you got. Okay, thank you, Chris Silas. Said you are undefeated in Itabena. Appreciate that. So this is about Jackson State staying in line. Listen, Valley, for everything that they've had their struggles by, every single week, including last week, man, they do fight. But the thing about Valley, man, this is the wrong team to play when you got depth issues, when you got strength issues, and you got size issues. For all the Jackson State fans, I'll just say it like this. This game, what's so important about this game? This is Jared Lockhart. This is an opportunity to get him some much-needed reps. Now, yeah, the word is that Morgan may be coming back. If not next week, it could be for the Alcorn game. We'll see. Okay, those are a few sources that I've seen that have mentioned that. Okay, but this is about Lockhart. Can you get him some confidence, right? Throwing the ball, that is. Last week, they only threw the ball 10 times. Didn't need to throw the ball last week, because when you're running it for 392 yards, you didn't need to really throw it, okay? But this is about getting some much-needed reps. And this is about taking care of the ball, playing a clean game. You do what you need to do. Valley's going to fight. They're going to play the way they can play. But at the end, that's where I'm going, 42-13. Business-like, though. Okay? Business-like. I had 49-13 earlier. But I just really think that Jackson State, I think that this is about just focusing on playing a clean game, not making any penalties, being disciplined, just doing some things, because, listen, you got bigger fish to fry. So what you need to do, you just need to play the game, make sure you get out of there and get out of there healthy and get out of there with a good attitude, and just get on down the road and get home next week to the vet. All right? Shout out to Valley. Last on my slate tonight, I've got some. Okay, let me go back one. You say plus giving some seconds and third string guys. Okay, hold on. I'll pause for a second here. Yeah, We'll see some of these. Lockhart needs more reps and an opportunity to gain confidence. He needs to be on the field. Correct. He said 400 plus yards rushing this game. You know what? Honestly, guys, I think if they ran the ball 50 times, they'd still win by this much, if not more. Okay? He said, I don't want to play Lockhart in this game unless the offense gets stagnant. He said, I don't want to risk him getting hurt. Valley defense has always been solid and been some hard hitters. Okay. Let's see what else you guys got. Yeah, this will be a great game for Lockhart to improve and get comfortable for the future. Okay. He said, you can't be scared to play your quarterback. I agree with you, Freddie G. If you are, you might as well sit him the rest of the season. I agree, man. Really, like I said, man, you need to get Lockhart some time, and then like my man here said, he said, get some second and third string guys. Because here's the thing. Here's the most important thing that I love about this comment right here. You need to get those guys some time, because you never know, man. Guys go down in different positions, right? And this is a game that if you can get up early, get up big, you can get guys a lot of really significant playing time that'll serve you well up the road. Because you're gonna need some other guys that are gonna have to step up. All right. So we'll move forward. Last game on the slate here. We've got Prairie View checking in at 4-1. Sorry, got ahead of myself. 4-1. And they're playing Alabama A&M, who's 1-4, okay, in SWAC play. So Prairie View 4-1. I've got the right record, 6-3. Okay, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. Last time they played, y'all, 2016. Can I pause it right there? 2016, man. Why? Why is it almost 10 years since two teams in the same league haven't gotten together. Come on, man. Last time they played, Prairie View won 41-20. Okay, this game be on SWAC TV. So that's the setup for this game. Okay, now here's the rest of it. And he said, give your school a pep talk. Hey, listen, man, it's beyond me at this point, bro. All right. Prairie View, uncharacteristically last week, 4 interceptions. They entered the game with only 6 turnovers for the season. And you know, those that watched that game, that was a huge reason why Prairie View lost that game. That's one of the reasons, but that is a glaring reason why they lost that game. Because if you remember last week, I said that if you're Prairie View, you cannot afford to be giving Alabama State any additional possessions. And they did, right? 4 interceptions, okay? Now, some of the things they did do well last week, they rushed for 269 yards. Bingman had 118, and your quarterback Peters had 122, okay? Now, they averaged 139 yards per game in pass defense. Why is that important? Because that's the bread and butter of what A&M does. That is when they have Eric Hanley at least starting. As you can see, you've got the quarterback is questionable. Hanley was out last week because he hurt his shoulder during the Magic City Classic the week prior. Ashley Tucker, who's the third stringer, has not played all year because he was in an injury. He had an injury in a car accident. The same car accident with quarterback Eric Hanley. Okay, so he hasn't played all season, and Coach Shade said that they are getting him back this week. J.D. Davis, the 4th stringer, he finished the Alabama State game and he played all of the game last week. So if Hanley is healthy, if Hanley can play, he will start. If Hanley can't start, Tucker will start. If Tucker somehow, if he's not able to play, then J.D. Davis for the second week in a row will be the starter. You'll know, like I will, when the game kicks off at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, who Alabama A&M starting quarterback is. Regardless of the fact if it is Hanley, passing offense has been one of the bread and butter is how A&M has really thrived when they have thrived on offense. Now, defensively, they've been giving up a lot of yards rushing. 199 yards rushing. They cut into that average last week because they played to run well last week against Grambling, and holding them to just 145 total yards, period. This game right here, this is pride for Alabama A&M. This is about them trying to get on the board and get back to 500. And also, this is what could be a season, could be a high point for your season of beating a very quality opponent in your house. Prairie View, for them, everyone knows what it is. The stakes are the stakes, and I'll go over the scenarios right after this. The stakes are the stakes for them. Last week, they let a golden opportunity get away to really, really take a big step in the SWAC championship chase. They go on the road. I love my Bulldogs. Y'all know I do. But I don't trust our defense again. 31-24 Prairie View. I think that they run the ball, and I think that they find a way to make a few plays in the passing game. I got Prairie View taking us out, though, 31-24. I think at 4-quarter game, though, we fight them. And don't get me wrong, I believe that A&M can win this game. So if A&M wins this game, it shouldn't come as a shock to anybody, especially if Eric Hanley plays. But I think Prairie View is going to get this one. All right? So here's where I was last week. I was 9-2 last week. Texas Southern, everybody was stunned by that one. I went with Southern last week. Ain't going with Southern no more. But yeah, I was 9-2 last week. That brings my record to 103 victories and 28 defeats. And as you can see, these are all of my picks this week. I've got Tennessee Martin over Tennessee State. I got the Sea Wolves of Stony Brook over A&T. I have Maine over Hampton. I have South Carolina State over Howard. North Carolina Central over Norfolk State. Delaware State getting a big win over Morgan State. We got the Snakes, the Rattlers, getting the win over the Golden Lions. We got Alcorn getting the win in the McNair Tribute Bowl. We got Bethune-Cookman winning down there in Grambling. Jackson State winning convincingly in Itabena. Got Alabama State winning over Texas Southern, and I have Prairie View over my Bulldogs. Now, I'm going to put right up here now. These are the scenarios here again. For those that didn't see it on Sunday night, I do have an addition to this from Sunday night. So, all right, this is the same as I showed it from Sunday. Okay, the title game, if the season ended today, would be Prairie View at Jackson State. Jackson State would be the host team due to being ranked now 23rd in the FCS. Okay, the easiest way that Jackson State would host if they won out is if they won the East. Period. They went out, they'll be ranked. Okay, win 4 straight games, you're good. Okay, 3 straight games, you're good. Best way that Prairie View can win out if they won the West and host it is they'd have to win out and have Jackson State lose once. That's how it would work. Okay. Now, and the reason why you see here the tiebreaker policy, it's on the website there. Everybody can see this. It's all for free. You can go find it. You can see the records and all that stuff. Number 4 will be the reason why Jackson State would be the host. Okay. Now, West scenario, here's as it is right now. Okay. I had an addition. Okay. So Prairie View, they can win the West this week with a win plus Texas Southern and Grambling losing. On Sunday night, I forgot to add that Grambling, if they also lost. Okay. So here it is. Prairie View, you win at Alabama A&M. You get Alabama State winning over Texas Southern and Bethune-Cookman winning over Grambling. You clinch the West with 2 weeks to go. Okay. If for some reason you win and one of those other 2 teams also wins, then it'll go another week. Okay. You can also get there if you just won your next 2 games. That's assuming that if Texas Southern also won their next 2. Okay. So Texas Southern and Grambling, you're in dire straits. You need to win your final 3 games, and you need 2 Prairie View losses in the equation. All right. Grambling, you also need a Texas Southern loss inside of that because you don't have the tiebreaker against Texas Southern. Okay. Note, there are easier routes. These are the easiest routes that are explained. There's more complicated ways to win a division, but we're not there yet. And I hope that I don't have to dig way deep into the bag to explain any 3-way ties or anything like that, right? All right. So basically, like this in the West, Prairie View, you win this week, and next week you're gonna be the SWAC West champion. Okay, that's just where it's at. Okay, now we go to the East. Okay, Quentin Major, he said you need to add Alcorn. I'm not adding Alcorn yet, man. Not adding Alcorn yet. The reason why I'm not adding Alcorn is because that's really remote to win 3 and have them lose 3. Okay, so I'm leaving that there. Yes, we know that Alcorn is still alive, but hey, man, let's just leave that where it's at. All right, East. Jackson State controls its own destiny. The easiest way to win is just win your next 3 games. Okay. There are ways that you can win win the East next week. Okay. If you get a couple of losses, if Alabama State and Bethune-Cookman both lose this week, you could win the East next week. Okay. But for this week, as we sit, you win your next 3 games, you will win the East, and you will also be the host of the SWAC title game. Alabama State, you need to win your last 3, and you need Jackson State to lose 1. And this way, if this did happen, if Jackson State lost 1 and you won your last 3, and let's say Bethune-Cookman won their last 3, you would win over Bethune-Cookman because you beat Bethune-Cookman head-to-head. Bethune-Cookman, if you win your last 3, which also includes beating Jackson State next week on their field, and have Alabama State lose at least once, then you would win the East. And again, there are more complicated ways to win a division, but we're not there yet. So when I come before you on Sunday night, depending on what happens in the outcomes on Saturday, this will be a lot more simpler for me to show you. And what I also will do on Sunday night is I'll start showing you the what ifs. Okay. I'll show you what would happen if somebody won their last two and I'll show you all that Sunday night. Okay. Because I know people love to go the what if game. Okay. What I also will give you on Sunday night too is I will also show you the MEAC scenario, okay? Because once we get to Sunday night, there'll be 2 weeks remaining in the MEAC, and I will be better served to show you what it'll be in the MEAC. And man, boy, you got a possibility of a 3-way tie in the MEAC, even right now. And man, I studied it and I went over it, and man, y'all gonna love to see this, man. But again, it just depends on how things turn out on this week. Okay. Now, last but not least, we switch over and we'll show the standings. Okay. So now that I've showed you and I said all that, here are the standings. So you see, Jackson State is 4-1. Now listen, all these folks love to say, oh yeah, it's a 3-way tie, blah, 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 whatever. You can say whatever you want. I'm not going back and forth with people about whether it's a 3-way tie or not. Bottom line is this: Jackson State, they have the inside track. They went out, they win the East. End of story. Okay. Alabama State and Bethune-Cookman need some help. They need to win and get some help. Rattlers, you lost your chance last week. It's a long uphill climb now, because you don't have a tiebreaker over Jackson State or Alabama State. So you need full out chaos above you for you to even have a chance. And then Alabama A&M and Valley were playing for next year, playing for respect down the stretch. Okay. And in the West, you've got Prairie View sitting there at 4-1 with a 2-game lead. Okay. I know it's 1 in the standings, 1 in the loss column, but it's essentially a 2-game lead because of the tiebreakers, the head-to-head that they have over Texas Southern and Grambling. Okay. So you see what it is in that regard. And then lastly, you've got the MEAC. You see Delaware State and South Carolina State sitting at 2-0. Okay. This week is going to tell a whole lot about the MEAC standings, because you have swing games with Delaware State going to play Morgan State. If they win, they'll go to 3-0. You got South Carolina State hosting Howard. If they win, they'll go to 3-0. And if North Carolina Central beats Norfolk State, they'll go to 2-1. And it'll be a 3-team race with 2 weeks to go. And what is really, really significant about the top of this thing is something that I'm going to show you here in a second as I go to Delaware State's schedule. You can see that Delaware State, their last game is they host South Carolina State. So what you could have with Delaware State hosting South Carolina State in the regular season finale, if things shape itself out with South Carolina State here, as you can see their schedule, their next game, they go on the road and play North Carolina Central. You could possibly have North Carolina Central being eliminated that game, and you could have a winner take all on with an unbeaten 4-0 South Carolina State at a 4-0 Delaware State for the whole thing to get the Celebration Bowl and the MEAC title. You could have that. But North Carolina Central, they want to spoil the party, because if North Carolina Central can get this win this week against Norfolk State, you see that they get South Carolina State on a short week on their field, they could have a possibility of trying to set up a 3-way tie. So that's where it is. All right. And then I'll get to the rest of the SWAC here. Okay. So I talked about the SWAC schedules, and you see here with Jackson State, this is what they have remaining. So you see they got the last road game of the season at Valley. And then they have the finish with 2 in the vet, Bethune-Cookman, and then you got the Soul Bowl. Okay. So that's where it is for Jackson State. Okay. Now, if you're looking at what Alabama State has, Alabama State, they get this game this week against Texas Southern. Next week, they play Valley in Mobile in the Port City Classic, and they finish the SWAC schedule at home against Pine Bluff. Okay, so if Jackson State does stumble somewhere, okay, Alabama State has what you would think is a favorable schedule to be right there in position. Okay, and then you get to Bethune-Cookman. This is what Bethune-Cookman has. This is a huge game this week for them. This is one where you got to have it, because everything that you've done over this winning streak, they've won 3 games in a row after losing that one at Bama State on homecoming 52-35. If you don't win this game this week, that would undo a lot of the goodwill that you've done. You win this game this week, you'll be at 5-1, and you have a golden opportunity to try to set up a really, really good opportunity when you go to Jackson the following week. All right. And then we'll go over here to the rest of the, here you go, Prairie View. You look at what Prairie View has. They're on the road this week, and you look at their favorable finish. They have 2 home games. They have Pine Bluff and Valley. So the way I look at it is, Prairie View, if you can't win the West with the way that finish is, you never deserve to go to the SWAC championship game to start with. People in the audience, you agree with Wild Wayne? You can say yeah. You can say yeah. Say it. Even if you didn't say it, you agree. Everybody would agree. But with the way that finish is, even if you stumbled this week, if you can't beat Pine Bluff and Valley at home, you don't deserve to do nothing. All right. And then you'll look and you'll see what Texas Southern has. They got it. This is tough for them, man. This week, just this week. Southern's winnable. A&M at home, that's winnable too. But really, Texas Southern, you kicking yourself for 2 things. One, on 4th down from the 17-yard line in the opener, in that touchdown that you gave up at the gun. And then last week, laying an egg at home against Alcorn. Because, man, had they won that game, they would have been sitting there just needing one more Prairie View defeat, and they could have won out, and they could have slipped in and stole it. And then we'll go over here to Grambling because they're still alive. This is what Grambling has. So this is their last game at home this week against Bethune-Cookman. And then you see they go to the reservation next week. That ain't going to be a fun trip. And then you got the Bayou Classic. So Grambling, they're still alive, but really at this point, like I said, it's on Prairie View's racket in the West with this. Okay. So, great week ahead. Great week ahead. Looking forward to seeing some really, really cool things happen. One thing that I definitely want to say that I would love to see happen moving forward is for SWAC TV, if we're going to start all these games at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, let's get an availability where we can have a 4-way watch box. That would be very, very helpful because flipping back and forth from the in between the app, trying to check on this game, check on that game, everybody, we all agree that would be so much helpful, man. I don't know, there might be an extra cost or whatever, but look, if it's a way that the SWAC can make that multi-view happen, thank you, Big Reese. If they can get multi-view, man, that would be awesome. Because, we flipping back and forth and all that stuff. And then also, you have ESPN Plus. They always have one game a week on ESPN Plus. And then also you got the HBCU Go game, obviously. But yeah, multi-view would be helpful. So this week you've got a lot of really, really good games. Okay. And so once again, these are my week 11 winners. For those that just tuning in, everybody, I want you to make sure you hit the like button. And also, everybody, make sure you subscribe. I'm almost at 1,000, man. Coming at the start of this show, I had 65 people. Just needed 65 more folks, man, and I would make it. She said, just open a new tab. I know I can open a new tab, but I want to get multi-view, man. Especially when you cast it to your big screen TV, man, or if you have it from your Roku. SWAC TV is still a baby. I get it. Crawl before you walk. You're right. Yeah, that's why I said just for the future. That's all. But yeah, these are my week 11 winners. So somebody on this list, I would love to go 12-0 this week. Love to go 12-0. I don't think so though. Somebody gonna get knocked off. Somebody that I picked here is gonna get knocked off. And I will honestly tell you, the games that I'm really concerned about on this list, man. Really concerned about Delaware State and Morgan State. For some reason, man, I just had this feeling that, man, Morgan State is going to come out and be on one, right? I know we ride Morgan State hard. They have underachieved a lot. But, man, if there was ever a week where you would see Morgan State show up, man, these boys would show up Friday night at home, okay? Florida A&M and Pine Bluff, I went back and forth on that, man. He said, your school will stop you from going 12-0. Hey, I would love for A&M to win this game. If A&M winning this game was what stopped me from going 12-0 this week, listen, I would be a happy guy. What's my win percentage, you ask? My win percentage, it's on the previous slide. 103-28. That's my percentage. 103-28. I think that gets you a coaching, gets you a contract extension, right? I think I'll get an extension by going 103-28, man. But anyhow, but yeah, those are my winners. And so yeah, man. I'm just gonna let everybody know. So I'll end tonight with this. So as we get down the stretch here, we have a very, very beautiful game of football. Love this stuff every single week, man. I know that we talk a lot about attendance, and rightfully so. But I want to just kind of give my final word tonight in a different way on attendance, okay? Listen, the people who are going to show up are the people who are going to show up. Attendance is not just an issue at some of our places, man. You got issues with attendance at a lot of places around America, okay? A lot of issues with attendance around America. One thing that I just don't want us to do, man, I just don't want us to be making fun of each other about the way people do with attendance. Now, yeah, I know some people, they made light about some of the things that went on with Prairie View and Coach Tremaine Jackson and all that good stuff. Listen, I applaud his efforts for trying to even get more people to come to the games, man, because that's what you should do, right? Now, obviously, we know homecomings, those are attendances. You know, you get people come to a classic, all that different kind of stuff. But man, I just really wish that, you know, more of us, we would attend more of our games and support it even more, man. We do very, very good watching it on SWAC TV. I've heard about the numbers and the viewership. It's been really, really good. One thing we do, we will watch the games. We definitely going to watch the games. But one thing that I would love for us to do is to attend more of the games, man, because it looks even better on TV when you see a full crowd. So that, or more of a full crowd, or more capacity in the crowd, right? So that would be awesome. Big Reese, he says, I think because more games are available on TV. I get that, man. I get that. Finances are shaky. I get that too. And yeah, that does go into it as well, because in the case of, you know, some places, some teams, it's like, you know, we had, like for A&M, we had homecoming, and then 2 weeks after, 2 weeks after, we had the Magic City Classic. So, you know, sometimes people, they need to make a decision on things like that. And then also Jackson State, you had the game in Vegas, you had game in Mobile, you had homecoming. So yeah, I get it, man. I get it. And then he said, we got to watch so we come back during the week and talk ish. Yeah, I get it, man. I get it. Everybody watch that stuff. Everybody watches these games, man, faithfully, right? And that's the great part of it. It said some people don't want to experience the game day experience. parking, long lines, weather, etc. Well, some of the things though about the game day experience though, and I've been to a couple of the SWAC, been to a couple places around the SWAC, man. Game day experiences, I've heard they've gotten better in many places, and then some, they're still evolving. But I get it. I hear it. So that's what I wanted to say tonight. I put a couple of 10-minute videos in. Make sure you check those out. I put a good one in about talking about firing coaches. Man, so I do want to kind of elaborate on that just a touch too. Okay. Where we are right now as a whole, this is not just an HBCU thing, as you might imagine. Everywhere in mainstream football, if you're not winning, they want the coach fired. If you're not winning, they want a change, right? Right? They want a change. We're not winning, let's get them out of here. Okay, listen. Everybody can't be fired, man. Because everybody can't be winners. Because if everybody were winners, then guess what? Everybody's record would be 6-6. What would be the fun if everybody was 6-6? But also the thing that's really, really kind of jacked up too about the way society is now with the transfer portal and NIL and all this stuff being made readily available. The expectations to win has gone way up. I saw even like LSU, their interim AD said we should be in the playoff every single year. That is our expectation. That is not realistic. Also, I know for some places around in the SWAC, you'll say, well, we're the 18-time champion, whatever. We're the standard. We should be up there competing for the division title every week. Well, listen, some years just ain't going to be a year, man. And sometimes in the case of Southern, I'm not even picking on Southern, but I mentioned Southern, them being 1-8. Listen, them being 1-8, man, look, sometimes you just needed to hit rock bottom before you can go and have a resurgence. It's been a while since 2013 since Southern won a SWAC title. So sometimes, man, it goes beyond just the coaching. Sometimes you need to dip into the way your administration is doing things. You need to dip into the decision making. And I know we don't talk a whole lot about administration as much as we should. Now, we got some really good athletic directors out there. My athletic director, Dr. Paul A. Bryant, he's great. Ashley Robinson at Jackson State, he's great. Anton Goff, he's a pretty good one down there at Prairie View. You got some really good ones, right? But you've also got some that, we'll see. But listen, you've also got some administrations that, they got to be a little bit more realistic too. And I think also with fans, I think we also have to be a little bit more realistic from time to time as well. I get it, man. You don't want to lose. You don't want to see your team being drugged all over, Facebook, all over X. You don't want to be dragged all over the place. I get it. Some of you, you're getting your feelings. I speak about my alma mater. Look, a lot of our folks, man, they got in their feelings about losing the Magic City Classic for the 4th straight year. You know what, man? It happens. You lost. You got to move on. If some folks were like, man, we got to get rid of Shade. Really? After 9 games? Come on, man. So listen, when it comes to firing coaches, not being happy with coaches, sometimes, man, some of the best decisions you make are the ones that you don't. Because theoretically, and I had a slide that I created where I showed in that video how many coaches have been there for a short time. You've got first-year head coaches at A&M, first-year head coach at Valley, first-year head coach at Prairie View, okay? You got second-year head coaches at FAMU, Alcorn State, Terrence Graves was a second-year head coach before he got the boot, right? Mickey Joseph is a second-year head coach, okay? So you've got second-year head coaches. You got guys that ain't been there that long. And then you've also got, you got Hampton, who's been there 3 years, okay, in his third season, right? The guy who's been there the longest is Coach Eddie Robinson, and he's on his 4th year, okay? So that really says that we've been reshuffling the deck a lot. And like he says, you said, I think coaches should get 3 years. I agree. I agree with that. But I'll also add to this, man. I'll add to this too. And this is a great point, but I'll add to this point as well. I think not only should coaches get 3 years, I think that they really need to get a little bit more support inside of those 3 years. Okay. Now I get it. I get it. A lot of presidents in different places, they have a lot of pressure. A lot of athletic directors, they have a lot of pressure. Okay. They have a ton of pressure to make the right hire because, you know, a lot of these tenures of athletic directors, they're defined by the track record of the coaches they hire. And also the way that these salaries are working now. If you don't hit on a coach, man, and with the amount of money that you pay, and if you have to fire him early without cause, you're on the hook for some money. You're on the hook for some money. And that's something that you have to be able to consider, man. And yeah, I like this. The president and the AD, they need to be on the same page. And a lot of times, I'll even add another caveat to this. Your cabinet and the administration and the trustees need to be on the same page. You saw the videos that are out there, man. You seem like there's been a whole lot of angst around with people when it comes to hires. You've seen division in trustees. You've seen a lot of that stuff, man. And it's just really crazy. It says the new transfer portal rules is really going to show who's building programs. You're right, because you only get one transfer portal window now. You only get one. And said also a lot of this hot seat stuff is driven by social media. Folks hate to lose a SmackDown. You're right. And said this is why FAMU when I get a good coach, so they should keep who they have. Yeah, I see this though. Hot seat stuff driven by social media. Yeah, and also it's been driven by mainstream media too. Because people love a storyline, right? They love a storyline. Go on a 3-game losing streak, 2-game losing streak. Hell, some places lose 1 game. Well, you know, man. And then they start bringing up stuff about a coach's buyout, and people start asking questions. Hey, man, how many years he got left on his contract? How many years left on his contract? You know what I'm saying? A lot of that different kind of stuff. And then also, too, I think, too, this is another thing that I think we also need to keep imaginative and keep in our minds about coaching. A lot of times you see what they're doing up the road. They're winning, and they're winning more, right? And some people say, well, we want to win too. Well, you know, hey, man, winning ain't that easy. You got to get in line. Okay, PZ says, do you think some of these coaches are just that bad? You know something, man? I'm not going to really say that coaches are that bad. I think that really what it boils down to is there are certain coaches that are not a good fit for a program. And also they're not a good fit for a culture. And also sometimes too, coaches, they can tend to hire the wrong guys on their staff, or they can be too loyal to certain guys on their staff. And then also, let's just keep it real, man. Sometimes, man, they might be just in over their head. Maybe they're just not a head coach material. You know, they had the makings of being a head coach, but maybe they're just not head coach material. Maybe they're better off or better served by just being a coordinator or being an assistant head coach, right? Like their decision-making is pretty good, maybe in an advisory role instead of being at a head role, right? Because being a head coach or being a leader of anything, man, it takes a different mindset. It takes a different type of stress level. It takes a different type of ability to overcome adversity. It also takes a different style where you have to be willing to make the tough decisions that maybe fans don't want you to make. Certain guys, they say, well, you know, we don't like the way you stick with that quarterback. But, you know, people, they're not in the building with you every day seeing the inner workings of how you're working with these quarterbacks. obviously we see certain things happen from time to time that makes you wonder and think that coaches are bad. But I don't really think that coaches are bad because, listen, they became a head coach for a reason. People aren't just putting guys in head coaching positions because, they don't have some kind of ability. Like, for real, there's something they seen in them that really showed you that they could potentially be the person. But, there's a lot of fits. Okay, right. If your president isn't a sports person, your school's in trouble, especially if football is your bread and butter and it funds your other sports, especially the non-revenue sports. True. And also, the thing about this too, even if your president is not a sports person, most of these presidents, they're businessmen and businesswomen. And if you're a businessman or a businesswoman, if you don't know anything about a forward pass, you know about how to make some money. You know about wins and losses, and you know when to keep your tail right out of business that you don't belong in. I do know that part. Okay. But these are some of the inner workings, and I'm glad that I took the extra time to talk about this. And everybody that's still with me and still watching, man, make sure you hit the like button because plenty of you are still with me on this topic. I just think that this is something that really, really needed to be talked about because a lot of times we see all on Facebook, man, and listen, all that stuff that gets said on Facebook, man, where people like, man, this person trash, that person trash. Listen, that ain't real. That's not the real dialogue. The real dialogue happens right here. The real dialogue happens when you're around people who have like thoughts, right? So I know. And say, yeah, in certain circumstances, guys have been given a job because the players wanted them. True. And you know what? It's the reason why the players wanted them because they believed in their ability and their way to manage the team. Okay. But again, sometimes it's a big difference once you go from the chair down towards the back end of the table to now you're the head of the table and you're the one that has to make these decisions. Okay. But just flat out, man, when you're coaching, you need a good bit of breaks. You need a bit of good luck. You need the guys that you recruited, the guys that you went after in the transfer portal. You need those guys to hit. You need health. You need guys not to be injured, right? You need to have guys that deliver, okay? A lot of times coaching tenures are undone because the guys that they depended upon that were going to help them go to greener pastures, they did not pan out. Okay? A lot of that has happened as well. So there's so many different factors that goes beyond just winning and losing. And I think what will really help us as a people and as a culture is if we really, really spent a whole lot more time studying and spent more time just looking, watching these interviews, watching these calls that I participate on Mondays. Now, I know a lot of times on Mondays, some of these coaches, they don't want to say a whole lot of stuff, right? And some of them, they don't want to be there at all, but that's another day. But for those coaches, some of them, they'll be very, very transparent. Like TC Taylor, he's very transparent. Coach Tremaine Jackson, highly transparent. Sam Shade, another one, very transparent. They'll tell you, like, look, we just didn't get it done today. Or, hey, yeah, the decision that I made on X, Y, and Z is what it was. Okay. But coaching, winning is hard at every level. If you're winning now, be thankful. Because remember, everybody had a period of losing. Everybody. And when you had a period of losing, that stuff felt real, real bad. So if your team right now has a winning record, just thank the Lord and just enjoy it and don't take it for granted. Because remember, this is a year-to-year sport. The days of I'm going to recruit a fire stellar class of like 15 players, 20 players out of high school. We're going to put these dudes on the bench. We're going to redshirt some of them. We're going to develop them. They're going to be on the practice squad, going on scout team, whatever. We're going to develop them. And by the time they're juniors and seniors, man, these boys ready to roll. That don't happen no more. You don't. And then also, man, look at who we got coming back next year, man. He's only a sophomore. He's only a junior. It don't work like that no more. Most of the dudes that you're looking at right now on your roster, I can guarantee you, I'll say 25 to 30, maybe even 50% of them won't be there next year. You'll have guys that were starters for you that stood out. Okay. I can guarantee you right now, anybody, and you know this. You saw it last year with Giovanni Gibson, who's at Oklahoma. You saw it with Anderson from Grambling, who's at Ole Miss. Listen, all these different guys who will be first team all SWAC or first team all anything, right? First thing is going to happen, man. These coaches from these upper levels are looking for depth because, listen, as they're losing players, they got to go. Remember, everybody's losing players in the portal. Everybody. Every team in America loses players in the portal. And when you're losing players in the portal, everybody's looking for talent everywhere they can get it, okay? And so now when they're looking to try and get guys, the team as you see it right now, the configuration, that ain't going to be your team next year. So coaches, they got to make these decisions, man. Right now, they're thinking like, man, okay, who are some of the guys that we want to keep for next year that we think is going to be the pieces that's going to help us to either keep winning or it's going to help us to start winning again, okay? You have to make those decisions as a coach. And if you're not, listen, you could be a marginal recruiter, okay? Even a marginal recruiter can still strike out with the way this portal thing works, okay? You might not have enough hours in the day to watch film and tape on everybody, man. I mean, you can see dudes from other rosters, okay? You can get all of the feedback you want, but you still got to make a conscious decision on whether this guy fits our system. There are certain teams out here in America right now where you got head coaches that are running systems, preferred systems that they want to run on offense and on defense, and they still don't have the personnel to run it. They're constantly looking to try and find guys that can fit the fit. Okay? These are things that people don't talk about. All this stuff you got to deal with. Coaching ain't just coaching no more either. You got to do media. Listen, you got to do community. You got to be recruiting. You got to be recruiting. You got to be portal. Then you're managing some NIL. You're managing your funds. And then this is before you even get on the field and make a decision about, we playing 4-3. We playing cover one. Here we're gonna throw a skinny post. We're gonna throw a shallow. You ain't even got to none of that schematic stuff yet. So all your old school guys that just want to coach ball, those guys may not be fit to be a head coach, because in 2025 you got to be a businessman, a salesman, and a football coach all in one. And if you can't do any one of those elements, you sure as hell better have somebody on your roster, on your coaching staff who can. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. So as we always get into saying, we need to fire this person, we got to get another person. Okay, fire who? Fire them and then get what? And a lot of times when you fire somebody, because you see it now. These lists, everybody says, well, man, this is our wish list of guys. Man, you ain't hiring that. You look down the list. You ain't getting that guy. You ain't getting that guy. You sure as hell ain't getting that guy. You see what I'm saying? Bottom line is this, man. The way coaching goes, you gotta just really, really, really know if you got a really good guy, if you got a guy that has some capabilities, you got to just try to do all you can to try to support the heck out of the person you got. I use Alonzo Hampton again in this sense, man. Listen, I know UAPB has not been winning. Okay? I know it. But you can't tell me that guy is not an energy guy. And you can't tell me that guy don't have passion. And you can't tell me that guy don't work his tail off to try to build a winner there. You can't. If you watch his interviews, you can see it. He'll sit there. He'll tell you, man, I watched the game of our next opponent. I watched it 4 times. This was on Monday. Just played on Saturday. Already watched the tape. 4 times. That's the kind of stuff that you're talking about, man. That's the kind of stuff you're talking about. So, man, for me, I just feel like, with coaching, man, and this is my last point with coaching. You already saw it with Willie Simmons, right? Valley, you had a good one with Vincent Dancy. Vincent Dancy was winning some games for you guys. You guys know how it works. If there's good coaches out here, head coaches will leave a school that they're a head coach to go be a position coach on a bigger team. They'll make more money. They'll have a little bit less pressure. They can focus on a certain skill set. And then guess what? In the case of Willie Simmons, he goes to Duke one season as a running back coach, right? Working for Manny Diaz. And now he's the head coach at FIU and probably going to take him to a bowl game. He's making more money. He's elevating himself. And here's the thing. He wins at FIU. Guess what? He'll move up to another spot. So that's how it works, man. So when you have a really good coach at our level, hey, listen, that coach has a shelf life. Believe me this, if he's winning and he's fairly young in age, it's a matter of time before the big boy is going to come scoop him up. So that's why I said 1 year at a time. When you have a winner, enjoy it for 1 year because next year it ain't going to look the same. All right. He said, as a coach, you have to bet on yourself. You're right. All right. So before I leave, once again, everybody, make sure you hit the like button. Share this show with everybody, man. This is a great show, great thing that I love. Great show that we did tonight. Love everybody participating in the comments as you always do. I'm looking forward to coming back on Sunday night because Sunday night we're going to be back at 7 p.m. Eastern. As I always am, we're going to break down all of the games here in this week 11. We're going to show you the updated SWAC scenarios and the MEAC scenarios. I'm going to give you my ride tokens as I always do. And then also we'll set you up for a very busy week number 12 of SWAC football, MEAC football, and also the CAA and then Tennessee State and the Big South OVC. So big stuff cooking, everybody, this week. Everything gets started on Friday night there in Baltimore with Delaware State at Morgan State. And everybody, hey, enjoy football. Holla at me. Y'all see my socials. You see me, you know where to find me. You drop some stuff in the comments. If you got questions, I'll answer them. All that good stuff. Appreciate everybody as always. I will see you on Sunday night. God bless you. Good night.
Thank you for joining us on the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. As you exit the ride, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, and catch up on all of our prior episodes. Until next time, God bless.